hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, welcome to the Saturday edition of the Paranormal Portal. I hope you guys are having a wonderful weekend. I hope you're staying warm. It's like a freaking deep freeze up here. I don't know who the hell turned off the heat, but oh my God.
Gotta be flayed.
Oh my God, it was so cold. I walked over to the store today and I turned a corner around. Well, let me get you on screen. First of all, let me welcome my good friend and co-host, Mr. Don Longbeard. Welcome back, brother.
Hey, nice to be home.
Yeah, it's good to have you home.
Home. I like this place.
I like that when you're here too. It makes things so nice to have somebody to bounce things off of.
He's so sweet, isn't he?
It's all the love I'm feeling, Don. But let me tell you about my journey into the great tundra today. Oh my God. And, you know, I'm a Minnesotan, so I mean, way deep down, I have a genetic memory of being really cold. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in, 10 below, 20 below, whatever, and it was just part of the drill. But since moving out here, man, I've gotten soft because the winters in North Idaho, you'd think being up in the mountains and stuff, it would just be brutal and just unyielding, but the plains are so much worse. This is pretty temperate and moderate here, really. But the wind chill today has just been horrid. I guess it was like 10 below wind chill. And so it was really pretty brutal and blowing like a son of a gun. And I walked to the store. I had to shovel first, and I came in after that and was inside for a while. But then I'm like, damn it, I got to go to the store. So I had to go to the store. I got all bundled up and went out to the store. And I'm going through the houses and area, and I go up to the store. And as soon as I turned the corner, it was like I just opened myself up to a wind tunnel. And that ice cold air hits you, and you're like, you can't breathe. I was trying to force myself to inhale. I'm like,
I
my lungs just went nope, and they just.
we were working on one of the paranormal vehicles today out at my place, and boy, I tell you, even though I was in the shop, I had the shop open, the car was pulled in, we were still just out there shivering. My thumbs were frozen, and I mean, it's an unheated shop. I mean, we live in Idaho, right? I mean, no big deal. But my God, we got next to that heater and we couldn't even feel the heater blowing. We had to get up on it
Yeah, I know. It was just nasty. I don't envy you having to be out there for that long. Although I was outside shoveling for a long time because that stuff was just packed and nasty. But anyway, that's not what the show is about. But I just wanted to drop that on you just because I love you guys and I want to make you a part of all my experiences. So I hope you guys are faring better than that. And I hope it's warm and lovely wherever you are. Of course, we know that it is for some of our listeners. But let's take a look at who's here, shall we? So in the TFR chat, we have Lucky's in there. TFR Wookie, Doc Kayak, Snarf,
Hi,
Zariath, Zaralath. Sorry, I really butchered that. Rihanna, Haska, Free Energy 13, Dawns to you too, Intrigued Settler, cool name, I like that. Nice Visitor, and which is good because you hate to have the bad visitors.
Visitors are not welcome.
And Sphinx One Links. And Spoonman 88 is in here, and Bill 13. Great to see you guys. Thanks so much for being here and part of the show. It's wonderful. Don, who's in our YouTube land?
Yeah, in YouTube we've got our friend Black Tree, Miss Julia, Deb Varner, Diane is there. Hi Nancy, nice to see you. That's Elemental Arts, and got Hacker and Lady Death and Lena and Nadine. Then we got this guy named Paranormal Portal. I don't know who that is.
That's a weirdie.
Then we got Pat. Hey Pat, how you doing? Renee's here, Strip Bear, Ken's here, and Lucky's with us there as well.
She's double dipping.
She's going from.
That's just Lucky. She can multitask.
I know,
She's got one of
isn't that
those brains
amazing?
that can multitask. So
God.
it's wonderful that you all are here with us tonight, and that alone makes me feel warmer. So, but tonight we're gonna revisit part 2 of the UFO aliens paradigm. We did part 1 last night. I didn't really know it was going to be a 2-part series, but there was so much information I had pulled up yesterday and didn't even get a chance to hit it, which is fine. I mean, I don't care if I use up all of it or not, but there's just so many more things that I wanted to discuss. Plus, I know, Don, this is really your wheelhouse. This is something you're pretty passionate about, is the UFO alien stuff. So
once again, it comes back to one of those things that is more tangible to me.
That's I mean, even if they do come from the outer reaches of space, or wherever the hell they come from.
Who says they're outer reaches? How about the inner reaches?
could be the inner Earth, could be the hollow Earth, could be ancient civilizations that have always been here. Yep. There's no saying what the deal is, but there's just so much to cover, and of course we've done shows on the UFO phenomenon before, and our good friend Jim Mount, of course, is a big part of those and has brought some really cool information and experience to the table on that. But which I thought was a neat correlation to last night's call from Naysay. He was talking about having seen an orange orb. And it was neat to have the information from Jim, who was a contactee, and he explained to us the color of these orbs and what they mean. And basically orange means they're looking for a threat, So and the way Naysay described the activity of the thing, it was like a search pattern. It was like it was zipping around looking for something. And so it was a really neat correlation. It's like, and when Jim was on the show, I was like, it's like having a Rosetta Stone in a way, because you can kind of understand what's going on just by that color. If, and it depends on what you believe in, ladies and gentlemen. Just because someone on the show says something, of course, I don't expect everybody to buy into it or not. But I tend to believe that, I've known Jim for years, and I know he's a real stand-up guy, so I tend to believe what he's got to say. But I thought that was really interesting to have an insight into what they might be up to. So by the color of the orbs, ladies and gentlemen, if you hadn't seen those shows, I would recommend going back into our archives and finding the shows where Jim Mount has appeared, because he does explain the colors of these orbs, which are little craft that are basically hunter-killers, for lack of a better term. I mean, they are like always patrolling our area, allegedly, to keep the nasty ones out that shouldn't be here, by rule of the Galactic Council, is what Jim has said. And it seems like a really, really fantastical chain of explanations and stuff. And I understand that some people may be hesitant to grab onto that, but it doesn't. We don't know. We just don't know. There's nothing else to correlate it with other than these experiences. And like I said, I know and believe in Jim. I think he's a real stand-up guy. So, but anyway, there was more. And yesterday, one of the things that I wanted to do was to cover a few messages that I received, and one of which was, of course, a message on Facebook. So let me get to that quick. if you guys don't mind humoring me while I navigate my own mess.
We love humoring you.
The portal needs its humor. Oh, okay. All right. I guess I'm not going to read that one because the person that shared with me said that the person that had the experience is trying to get some more information. So I'll hold off on that one. Okay. But the other thing I wanted to bring to you guys was this, which is, I think, hilarious as hell. And for those of you in TFR, iHeart, and TuneIn and TalkStream, I'll explain what it is after I show it, but those of you on YouTube, you'll be able to see it, and that's the beauty of watching us on our live stream, and which will be a feature of TFR in the very near future. Yes. I know Chris has been working really hard on it, yep. And I think that's going to be such an amazing complement to what we do on TFR, and it's really gonna be I think it's the wave of the future, and Chris is just brilliant by including video into what we're doing, and it really makes TFR honestly stand alone. Nobody's even close. Nobody else is really even close. So we've got that going for us. But for the meantime, I tell you what I will do. I will make sure it's, if it isn't already, I'll make sure it's shared to our Facebook page. And if you want to check it out, it's at facebook.com/Paranormal Portal Radio. But I'm going to put it up on screen here first. I got to find it because I have a mess everywhere. It's what I do. There it is. Cool. All right, so I'm going to put it up on screen. This is the funniest damn thing. All right, so how many of you guys have ever woke up and caught your own reflection and been just like, so without giving too much away, that's kind of the spirit of this. And it says, y'all, I'm in bed just scrolling through the timeline whilst deep conditioning my hair and wearing my face mask, and I looked up and scared the hell out of myself. This lady caught her own reflection in the TV, and it looks like a freaking ghoul. I love it. That is so hilarious.
That is scary.
That is scary. If I saw that, I think I'd be scraping the bed sheets with a putty knife. That's just horrible.
No doubt.
I hope it does wonders for her skin because I don't know.
Go back to bed, baby. You need more beauty.
You're going to have to sleep till next week to get that off. That's a whole bunch of ugly. No, I'm just kidding. But that is pretty horrible. And basically what it is, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that are on the audio only version of tonight's show, is the person is showing a picture of their reflection in the television, which is adjacent to the bed. And you can see it. The hair is just all, it looks like it's all white and washed out because she's conditioning the hair, deep conditioning. And then she's got the white mud mask on. And she caught that reflection in the television screen. And it looks absolutely horrifying. It really does. But I guess that's one of those where you're like, oh, thank God, it's just my reflection.
After you have the realization that you've seen it. It's like other than sort of going, what the hell's that?
Good thing that she doesn't have a weak heart. That's all I'm saying. Wouldn't it be funny just stroking out and then it's like, well, that is your reality now. So very cool. And thank you, Lucky, for sharing that with us. I love those kind of things. Those are wonderful.
That's awesome.
And there'll be more of that coming up on the portal because I just think that stuff's kind of fun. It doesn't always have to be all, serious and spooky and stuff. And Lord knows we don't make it serious and spooky anyway. But so let's get into some of the meat of this tonight.
Lucky says, I would have shot the TV with the shotgun.
Oh, Lucky, I love you.
So awesome. Diana says, who sleeps in a facial? She says, I'd have facial mask all over my pillow.
I don't know if the person was just sleeping. I think they were just laying down while they had to wait their time period. But
still scary.
Oh, it is. It's horrible. That would just, that's like the Ring kind of stuff right there. Wasn't it Samara from the Ring you said?
Samara, yeah.
Yeah. Good Halloween outfit, though. I think you could work that in. So just looking through in the house. Really, how you doing? Good to see you.
Vader's here.
Lord Vader.
Duck sauce.
If you only knew the power of the dark side.
I saw the Han Solo.
So what'd you think?
It sucked.
See, that's what I thought too.
It was just it didn't necessarily suck. It it really wasn't powerful like the other ones
Right.
were. You know, it
Yeah.
really just didn't grab me. It was like one of those. It's like more background noise and look over occasionally.
Yeah, I know. It was
I was
too bad.
disappointed. Yeah.
I mean, some of the parts they did really well. Like it had really good graphics and stuff. It's
Right,
just the
yeah.
storyline. It just seemed like it was just so flat for me.
I do have to say though, that visually it was great.
Yeah, exactly.
And it runs right along the same timeline, or rather close to Rogue One too. So
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I'll bet it. Well, would it?
well,
Oh,
it
yeah.
would be either right before or just as Rogue One's happening, because
No, because Rogue One is right before the Star Wars, and Han Solo's already an old man there, or an older man. He's already on the run from Boba Fett and all that stuff.
they are, well, that's true. Well, oh no, it was before he went to Tatooine and got in with Jabba.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So, well, it wouldn't be that much before Rogue One, though.
No, I suppose not. Maybe a decade or something. I don't know how they age out in deep space, but
Well, you know, it
Around
depends
here.
depends on if you're living in vacuum or not. Because vacuum would suck.
socially I am. Does that count?
We have all of your friends around us
I
right
know.
now.
All my friends are online. But I'm in a social vacuum for the most case. But, yeah, please hit the likes. And remember, the likes are actually a good bookmarking method.
Yes.
So you can tell what streams you've watched and which ones you haven't if you're checking out our archives.
That's a great idea.
That was given to us
That's
by a
good.
listener. She recommended that, and I thought, wow, that's a great idea.
Speaking of, there's only 16 of 35 right now. So
Okay, well, let's
bump that up.
all right, bump it up. Let's get. I got to keep an eye on the lines are open, ladies and gentlemen, and right away we have a phone call tonight. So let's get to that. And this is area code 843. You are on the air. Hello, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here now. I didn't hear you for a second. Sorry about that.
No, you're doing great. Welcome to the show. How you doing tonight?
I'm good. This is my first time watching you guys, and it will not be my last. I'm glad to have found the show. It
Oh, cool.
seems like a fascinating show. Very, very important, too.
Oh, thank you, brother. I appreciate that. And yeah, spread the word. Anyone else you know that's into the paranormal, for sure. But what's going on tonight?
I wanted to share a story about an experience that I had back in around 2002 or 2003. It was in September, I think. I was 13 years old back then.
Mhm.
I saw two grays, if everyone's familiar with that. If you're not, most people call them aliens. I prefer the term grays. If anybody is not familiar, you can look that up by Google searching that comedy movie called Paul. That was a depiction of a gray.
Oh,
So I saw two of them in my room, basically. I had an encounter with a couple of them. As unbelievable as that sounds, I found it shocking myself.
oh, I can believe it.
So basically the experience happened at night, probably something like 1 to 4 a.m., but I'm not sure exactly what time it was. I was wakened by a really bright white light shining in through my window. It was like lightning flashing, but it didn't just flash. It just stayed there and woke me up because it was so bright. It filled my room, the whole house, basically. Not quite the whole house, but it was coming in through the window. So as I woke up from that, then the light kind of shifted. You know, it started shining in through my door as well. And I can only assume that was because the grays must have been entering the house, and when they opened the front door, it filled other parts of the house.
Wow.
So the next thing I know, my door is opening, and my memory goes blank at that point. I don't have a memory of what happened after that until a little bit later. I don't have memory of actually seeing them then. Next thing I know, the next thing I remember, I should say, I woke up from sleep again, kind of terrified, like a nightmare, sort of. We've all been woken up, you know, in the middle of a nightmare, and you're kind of panicked from it. So I woke up sitting up real fast, and I started to rub my eyes because I noticed there were two humanoid figures in the room. And within that second of sitting up, I noticed these are not people. You know, these things are not supposed to exist. I noticed that they were blue, interestingly enough. That's a very unique aspect of my experience. These grays had bluish, grayish skin.
Wow.
It was a blue-gray color to their skin, not gray, not green.
Okay.
It was blue-gray.
Wow.
They were also really, really tall. The height of them surprised me. They would have had to have ducked their heads down to come in through my door. They were about 7 to 7.5 feet tall.
Whoa.
So that was really surprising.
Mm-hmm.
It was also surprising because they were so thin. I would say their necks were about as thick as my wrist.
Oh, wow.
You know, for an example of how thin they were.
Sure.
And that was even stranger because their heads were massive.
Wow.
Each of their eyes were about, you know, roughly give or take some the size of a dinner plate. And they were solid black, almond shaped, traditional depiction of how grays are, except maybe the eyes were bigger and more almond shaped.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes when you see depictions, the eyes are not quite like that, but lots of times they are. That's something that is usually depicted somewhat accurately. So, as I was sitting up, I, you know, was noticing them. They were noticing me in that single second of sitting up. And I had noticed one was gesturing with its hand towards the other one like they were talking, but they were not making any noise. In fact, I don't even remember seeing their mouths moving.
Okay.
I think they were communicating either maybe telepathically or with some kind of technology.
Uh-huh.
I speculate their eyes were solid black because I think that they actually had a lens on that was solid black over their eyes, but I don't know that for sure. I've always felt like that. So I think there may have been some kind of advanced technology there, possibly. I'm not really sure about that.
Right.
So it could have been a technological way that they were communicating, or it may have been telepathically, but I don't think that they talk. I don't think they can even make noise because their neck is so thin.
Right.
There's no way that they have a voice box in their neck. There's just no way. And I would say their mouths are also so small that they probably don't have a tongue much that would be good for making noise.
Wow.
That's
an
Go ahead.
That's an amazing observation, and I'd never really thought about that. But you're probably right. Those spindly, maybe that's the reason they generally don't talk, is because they probably can't talk in the way that we're familiar with. Very good point.
Yeah, that's exactly what I would think. Their lips would also indicate that, or lack of lips, I should say, because they don't. You know, they have like a slit, kind of. It's just like their lips. I guess they could have lips, but they're so featureless that you don't really notice it. You don't really see lips or a nose or something like that. They don't have any hair either. Oh, that reminds me, another odd thing while I was describing them, they also did not wear clothing. They were totally nude when I saw them, which interesting. That was interesting because they didn't have any sexual organs.
Okay.
So I don't know how they reproduce.
So it was just
because they had nothing.
And just really androgynous.
So that was pretty interesting.
Okay. That's wild.
So going back to me waking up and them noticing me, it was kind of like they were standing there near my door face to face with each other, and one had raised its hand towards the other one at its elbow, kind of like they were having a conversation. And as they noticed me, they both they went to like a robotic mode almost. They were already acting a little robotic, but it was like they switched from whatever they were talking about to whatever they were going to do with me. So they walked single file in front of my bed, which was really creepy and terrifying. And as they had turned and started to walk to me, somehow they paralyzed me. I could not move at all. And it was just horrifying because in that same second, I had some kind of like raw, absolute terror going on. The deepest, most intense fear that you can imagine. And I think they may have triggered that, but I don't know how they would have done that. It would be pretty incredible if they can do it, but I think that they may be able to.
Right.
So not only did they paralyze my body, my voice something happened to my voice. I was trying to scream, and it just felt like air was moving through my throat.
Wow.
It was the strangest thing.
So you've heard of the saying.
It felt.
You've heard of the saying paralyzed.
Go ahead.
You've heard of the saying paralyzed by fear, and so perhaps the communication is telepathic, and their ability is also telepathic in that they can trigger those fear receptors in our brains and just make them red lines. So we're just frozen in fear, in trepidation and terror or whatever. Yeah.
Right, that's exactly what I think, basically. I speculate that they're able to remotely, however they do it, whether it's a biological telepathy of some kind or whether it's technological, I think they have a way to remotely and instantly manipulate our brain without them really doing much. In fact, it's so little that we can't even see that they're doing something. But I think they're able to manipulate emotion, kind of like as a defensive or maybe even offensive weapon.
Sure.
So, like, if they think they're in danger, then they can trigger that absolute terror in someone. So that if they could do anything, they would just run and not do anything.
Right.
And then the paralysis could work the same way. And the voice has to be something similar. I don't know what was going on with that. It felt like being thirsty as well. That was a strange thing about it. It just felt like my throat was so dry that it couldn't make any noise. It just felt like air was going through it, and it was totally dry. So as they began to move over towards me, I was trying, of course, as hard as I could to scream or to move, do anything to get away from them. And I couldn't do anything. There was just nothing. I could think and watch, and that was it. I tried as hard as I could to move my arms or legs, but the only thing that happened was probably the worst and scariest feeling I've ever had in my life. I would be trying to move my entire arm as hard as I could, and all that happened was the tips of my fingers just barely drug a little bit over my bed sheets.
Wow.
And I'll never forget that feeling.
Okay.
Because that's just Go ahead.
Hold on a second, because we're gonna head to our first break, but I want you to hang on the line, because we're gonna talk to you you're gonna be with us for a while.
Yes.
We're not done with you yet. So. All right, so we'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna take our first break of the night, but again, if you are listening to the sound of our voices and would like to see the show as it's happening, please head over to youtube.com/paranormal portal. And you can find us there, but we are also on TFR Live, iHeart, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live. So we're taking over the world tonight, but we'll be right back. Don't go away, everybody.
people, real radio.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the second half hour of our show tonight, and we're having a brilliant show right off the bat. We've got this amazing caller on hold, so how you doing, Don? You ready?
Doing good, yeah, let's do it.
All right,
let's
get
back to
him
it.
back, and let's see where this is going to go. Excellent, amazing encounter experience, so with some tall grays, it sounds like, so pretty amazing. Are you there, caller?
I am here.
All right, so sorry we had to interrupt you there, but I'm glad you stuck with us, and please continue.
Yeah, so I was going through the chat, so I wanted to answer one or two of those comments. Someone said that I sounded nervous. That's actually very true, because sometimes, like, going through the experience in detail, it can be, even now, many, many, many years later, it can still be a little unnerving.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it was a traumatic experience. I was traumatized for 1 or 2 years after this. It interfered with my social interactions in middle school, because I could not sleep at night. I had to keep my light on. I had to keep water by my bed,
Right.
because I would think, if they paralyze my voice, I can drink water and then I can scream for help, which does not make sense, because I would not have been able to get the water anyway, since I would have been paralyzed. But, it helped me to sleep.
Right.
So let's see. So I was at where they had just noticed me, and I was trying to move.
Yes.
So not too much more happened after that. They walked over single file in front of me, which was really weird and creepy, because they basically squared off against my bed, kind of. They were walking single file parallel in relation to how my bed and room were. And they came down the right side of my bed, because I was a little closer to that side, and the one in front reached out towards me, kind of towards my face, and I was so terrified at that point that I passed out.
Wow.
And that's the last thing that I remember, basically, of the experience.
That is truly...
Let's see, there were a few other things.
Well, now...
One thing I want to bring up...
Sure, go ahead. Well, I was going to ask you, now, prior to this experience... Did you have any kind of belief in extraterrestrials or UFOs, or was this
just something new?
Yeah, was this just a complete shock?
Oh, it was an absolute, total, complete shock. I was in disbelief when I saw these things, because I was only 13 years old, and this relates to what I was actually moving to next.
Okay.
I see a lot of comments online from people talking about just alien things in general, which I don't like the term alien, because I don't think that grays are really aliens the way they're depicted in science fiction and Hollywood and so on. I think they're a bit different than that. I think they're more comparable to being something like Ghost, but they have flesh and blood bodies.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, that's getting a little onto a different topic. So I was raised a religious fundamentalist Christian, so I didn't believe that anything other than people, angels, demons, God, the devil existed. I thought that was it.
Yeah.
So in my mind, while this was happening, I was screaming for Jesus Christ to save me, practically the entire time, and nothing happened that I could perceive, at least.
Right.
To be fair to any Christians out there, maybe something was happening that I could not perceive, but I see comments all the time, all over places, saying, if you ever run into aliens or grays
Yeah.
call out
Yeah.
for Lord Jesus Christ to save you, and the experiences end immediately.
Right.
For me, that was not true.
Mhm.
I wish it would have been, but it was not.
Yeah.
So
Good point.
no, I was in disbelief.
Mm-hmm. That I don't blame you. I mean, I would be too. No, so when you're looking at them, is it possible that they're you know, you said they were naked and nude and all of that, but is it possible that just like their technology, which is nearly invisible to our eyes, is it possible that they were in fact wearing suits, but they were so form fitting and seamless that it looked like skin?
I would say that's possible, but I think it's extremely unlikely. I really think that these things, like whatever they were, grays is what I like to use the term grays more than aliens because it doesn't have as much baggage with it,
Right.
and it's more specific.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever exactly grays are, I don't think that they have, at least most of them, I don't think they have sexual organs to reproduce. I think they're doing something like cloning or something like that.
Sure.
Because they just don't have much extra stuff, like even muscles, anything like that.
Right.
You know, they don't have much of anything. Lips, it looks like they don't even have digestive systems much. I think that they must live off of, you know, something like juices, liquid foods, something like that, blood, whatever it may be.
Yeah. That could be
So
very
that's
true.
kind of my take on that.
Right. Are you familiar with the Travis Walton Fire in the Sky story?
I don't think that I am.
Okay. Well, the reason I'm asking is because he was abducted and was brought onto a ship, and he was immobilized for most of that as well. But he was on there for a longer period of time and was able to apparently discover that he saw the suits hanging, and he was surprised to find that they were uniforms that they were wearing, and he did see them without them, and while they were still quite different looking than a person, you know, it's just one of those things. I was just curious if you were familiar with that story at all, and it might be good as a side note for you to check it out, just because as a person who's experienced this yourself, I think that the more you check out other people's experiences, the more it can help you to process the experience for yourself. You had also mentioned that you have no other memory. Now, have you ever also thought of regression hypnosis to look into what might have happened after that point where you just went blank?
First, about the guy's account of seeing suits that match their bodies, I would say that's very, very possible.
Sure.
If that guy has a credible story and he had other consistencies with my experience, then I would actually go as far to say that he's probably correct about that, and they probably did have some kind of thin suits on that matched their skin color that was just extremely hard to see.
Sure.
The reason I lean towards that not being the case is because one thing I had not got to yet was that they were not wearing clothing, but they did have this weird aura, kind of like a light fog or an energy, something like that was around them.
Okay.
And it seemed to almost reflect off of their body because it was a bluish, silvery color. So it was almost like, you know, what it seemed like to me, it almost seemed like something that they were around that was generating that white, intense, bright light. It seemed like it almost hung around their body, kind of like static electricity or something like that. So that was an odd thing. It emanated, it glowed about about 1 inch probably off of their body.
Okay.
So I always felt like maybe they were naked because of that light around them. You know, like maybe that had something to do with it.
Sure.
But if that guy had a credible account, you know, I would be right there with him. If he said he saw some kind of suits that they had on, very possible.
Sure.
What was that guy's last name, by the way? Walker?
Walton, Walton.
Walton.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll look into that sometime.
Yeah, if you want to go.
And what was the second part again?
The movie that they based loosely based off of his experience is called Fire in the Sky.
Right.
But if you look on YouTube, you can see him giving a presentation about exactly what had happened to him and how the movie took a lot of liberties with that. And so his unadulterated recounting of it can be found on YouTube. So just look for Travis Walton, and you'll be able to find his account. Yep.
Will do. What was the second part of your question again? You had one other thing that you had asked about. I've lost what it was.
Regression therapy?
Yeah, the regression therapy. Have you ever thought about doing that to recover those memories?
Yeah, I have thought about that a lot. I've never done it, but I've really thought about it because I think that there's a possibility it would work. Because grays erase memories. I would say 90 to 99% of people who encounter grays have no memory of it. They don't know.
Right. Yep.
I think something went wrong with my experience. I'm not sure what it was. I don't think I was supposed to wake up when I did and see them in the room like that.
Right.
I feel like what was going on was that some other people in my house must have been, maybe we were all taken somewhere out of the house. I don't know. But I feel like something was going on outside of my room, and they were just standing there just in case I woke up, which I did. So I feel like there was some kind of mistake that happened, and that's why I have fragments of memory, because it didn't go like standard operating procedure. And I think 99% of the time it probably does, and memories are erased, and people never know it happens.
Right. Yes. That's
But
absolutely correct.
I think doing hypnotic memory regression could very possibly work, and I hear a lot of cases where people say that it did.
Okay. Yeah, I think it might be worth doing because now, but the other side of it is, perhaps knowing would be worse than not knowing, I don't know. I don't know. Because once you have those memories, you can't unmemory them, and maybe, ignorance is bliss in this kind of case. I don't know. It's one of those things, but I think honestly, since you've already come to terms with the fact that this occurred and you saw it, with your own eyes, I would want to know personally, just because, but that's me, and I don't mean to imply that should be you as well. Right. Now I got to ask, is there, have you been able to talk to any of your family about this?
No, to this day, my family doesn't know about it. Okay. Back when this happened, things were totally different. It's an interesting change that most people don't know about. Back then, in like 2003, and for quite a long time after that, anything about aliens was totally taboo.
Right.
It was totally barred off from discussion. If you talked about it with anyone, you would be considered for needing to be put in a mental hospital or something.
Right.
You would be considered totally crazy. You wouldn't even see it in much serious alien discussion in Hollywood media kinds of things. Like channels like History Channel, back then, they didn't touch alien stuff. And, that's how it was. And then sometime around probably a year or two before History Channel went really into that kind of thing, like with ancient aliens and other things, that was when there was a shift. There was a big change. Instead of having a complete blackout of discussion of things like what I experienced, everyone in society went completely the opposite direction. Now we're flooded with fake discussion of this stuff. Yeah. You get the alien concept and ancient aliens and so on, all kinds of stuff that is just totally fake. Well, it's amazing. You go through the internet, you look for any information on it, you get all this fake stuff. So much fake imagery, fake stories.
I don't know.
And it's a really amazing thing.
I don't know that you can quantify all of it as fake. I can understand if you say that you have a hard time believing everything that's out there, but I mean, like the Ancient Alien, some of the ideas in there are, to me, don't seem that far-fetched at all, and I think they could be really possible and plausible, but I understand what you're saying, and you're right that there is a lot of misinformation out there, and there's a lot of hoaxes out there, and there's a lot of people just looking for 5 minutes of attention, you know? So it does take a bit of discernment to try to figure out what might be valid and what might not be, but... you know, I was just wondering, the reason I asked about your family was because a lot of times these interactions seem to follow family lines. And, you know, like that they go through generations and keep checking in with that generation for whatever reason. And I don't know why, and I don't pretend to know why, but I know that that often comes up when people are discussing these situations, that many generations of the same family line will have experienced those kind of things too. But I understand if that's not a dialogue you're willing to have or
Right.
can have.
Yeah.
You know, I appreciate that as well.
I don't think that anyone else in my family has experienced anything like it. On both sides of my family, they're all generally either fairly to very religious, just very traditional Christians, that kind of people
Sure.
mostly.
Right.
So they really haven't seen anything like this. I mean, this would, you know, that kind of experience changes your complete outlook on life. You can't go back to exactly strict fill in the blank, whatever church that you were or are a part of. I mean, at least not 100%, maybe 99%.
Sure.
And I agree with what you were just saying about like ancient aliens and things like that. I may have been talking a little bit more absolute than
Sure.
would have been the right choice of words.
Right.
No, I appreciate that, and you know, you're entitled to your opinions too. I don't mean to disqualify anything you say, but you know, I just think a lot of times when it comes to this kind of stuff, I mean, nobody really knows. None of us know. We all have a ton of questions, and some of these things may seem to fit for some people, and some may not fit for others, and that's okay. You know, but I think it's cool to have the discussion.
Yes.
And you're right about the you know, the History Channel, and you know, the same thing goes for the Bigfoot with Finding Bigfoot, and you know, all of these shows that are entertainment. The one good thing about them is that they have enabled people to have the dialogue, you know, which they couldn't before. So that's a really cool thing, I think, personally, in the whole paranormal fields.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's why your show is so important, because if just one of any of these things was true, then it's extremely important to be talked about.
Yes, exactly. And so with your story now, you blacked out. At what point did you come conscious again, or did you become aware? Was it the next morning, or did you wake up at another point during the night?
No, that was it for the night. When I passed out, when that gray in front reached towards me, then I was asleep until morning.
Oh, okay.
So that was the complete experience.
Any physical manifestations as far as to show, you know, whether or not a craft might have landed, or any things that seem to change after that bright light? Like, could it have been, you know, sometimes people report the siding on their house was discolored in an area, or melted, or you know, plant life suddenly died in that area. Anything like that?
No, and you know, that brings up an interesting topic with encounters with grays, which is the lack of physical evidence that, you know, is overwhelmingly most of the time the case. Usually there's no physical evidence that people can produce. It's only testimony like mine. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason for that is I think that grays are a lot more similar to people seeing ghosts than aliens, how the concept of aliens is explained and depicted to everyone.
Right.
So I really don't think that it's possible to get much serious physical evidence, as in like smoking gun, absolute proof type of evidence. Maybe you can find some odd things here and there. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's possible to do something like kill one or get one on camera or capture one or anything like that, because I think they're like ghosts. I think most of the time when people run into a ghost, the ghost disappears. Mm-hmm. And I think it's similar with grays. I think that not only do they have the ability to paralyze us and erase our memories, I would think that they can either disable electronics or, maybe get rid of the evidence or something. Mm-hmm. So it's just very unusual. I think that the only way to answer that is that they're similar to ghosts. It's just hard to get anything.
A lot of what you've said does ring true with everything I have ever studied and heard. Especially when you come to like being paralyzed and losing the memories. In 1953, or about February of 1953 or 54, supposedly Eisenhower met with some aliens to actually discuss a treaty between us and them. And this is called the Greada Treaty. Now, in this treaty, there was a couple different races, supposedly a couple different races, and the Greys from Zeta Reticula, I forgot the name of the specific planet. I believe it started with a B. Part of what the government deliberated for about a year, and they turned one race away and accepted the deal from another race, and supposedly this was the Greys from Reticula, Zeta Reticula. Part of that agreement says that the Greys can abduct people and cows and do whatever. They can do whatever they want as long as the Greys weren't supposed to harm people. Another thing is they weren't supposed to let the people remember anything of what happens, anything. So if they take you at night when you're asleep, you're supposed to be returned at night when you're asleep, and you're not supposed to be any kind of conscious. Now, there's a common belief also that in the interim years since 1953-54, since the Greada Treaty was finalized and everything, something happened. And I think it was probably right about the same time as Phil Schneider had his experience with the underground, the Dulce base. Yes, thank you, Dulce base. Because supposedly he was with the Army Corps of Engineers, I believe it was, or maybe he was security at that time.
He was an engineer.
Okay, so yes. So anyhow, he was being lowered down into this pit, and something happened, and he went down too far. They had accidentally blown through some earth, and it uncovered these tunnels, and in these tunnels were supposedly these Greys. Now, Phil is no longer alive to tell us anymore, but he has been very vocal about what happened. One of their weapons melted off like half of his hand, and he had some kind of an issue with his leg because of this meeting, and before they could pull him all up out of this hole. Now, I think that may be the time that really, up until that point, early 70s, I believe it was, people weren't really reporting anything. And part of it is because of the stigma, as you said, about, well, that person's just crazy. That's, anybody who's seen aliens, they're just nuts. You're absolutely right. That's exactly where we were. But because of this incident, I think, from what I glean, the Greys, the Zeta Reticulas, whatever you want to call them, considered the treaty null and void. So we start getting in the 70s, mid-70s or later 70s, we start getting more alien abduction stories from people because people are remembering these things now. And I think it's because the Greys just said, you know what, screw them. We're not gonna erase their memory, or we'll just leave what would traumatize them and things like this. So part of that, part of what you said about being paralyzed, yes, they were supposed to be able to do that. Also, yes, obviously people were supposed to not remember their experiences or anything that happens. Of course, if you look back at the Barney and Betty Hill story, you find that during regression therapy, they felt consciously that they had been abducted. But with regression therapy, the details came out. That's when Betty Hill, she remembered during regression that she had seen a map, and on the map was a star chart, of course, and then she was able to recreate the star chart from memory after regression. And this is before we really knew anything about Zeta Reticula or even that cluster out there. It was a map to Zeta Reticula. It was a map to that area of space, as it's told. So yes, you're a lot of things that I'm hearing from you is falling right into exactly what I understand.
Very cool.
The only thing, I realized that we're almost to our
almost at
next
the break.
So I will reorganize my thoughts, and we'll continue talking after the break.
Can you hold for another break?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so you're stuck with us for longer. We ain't done with you yet. So hang in there, and we're gonna take another break, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm gonna put you on mute for now, but we'll get you after the break. So don't go away, and we will be back.
Yeah,
with you.
we'll be back with this one.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, use the loo, get a refreshment, because the party is still underway here on the portal. So we'll be back in just a few minutes to continue this amazing discussion. And this is, just I love this when you guys contribute, when you tell us your experiences, and we can have a dialogue. This is amazing. So, all right, guys, we'll be right back in just a few short minutes.
Play their games. Everybody loves to place their bets. They don't understand the price I paid. They don't care to comprehend. Trace their lines upon my body, dripping scars across my heart. Raging anger pours inside me as their lies keep falling apart. I am finished with my silence. I am not a stupid boy. No more breaking me with kindness, just you dance upon my joy. Leading me with empty promise, you're just another fucking mess. Taking off the slice of my sanity, just make sure that you're well fed. Look, I'm not wrong.
like it. Caroline is not like those she's with. They're attracted to the one thing about her that is different from themselves. Her life force is very strong. It gives off its own illumination. It is a light that implies life and memory of love and home and earthly pleasures. Something they desperately desire, but can't have anymore. Right now, she's the closest thing to that.
Poltergeists are usually associated with an individual. Hauntings seem to be connected with an area. A house, usually.
Poltergeist disturbances are fairly short duration, perhaps a couple of months. Hauntings can go on for years.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the second hour of the show. We're into hour number 2 here on the Paranormal Portal and having an epic discussion with a caller. But how you doing, Don?
Doing good over here. Just want to make another couple quick shout outs to some people in the YouTube here. That's Danny Lukes. I don't know if we got the Zombified. Let's see. Did we mention Nadine when we first started also? Want to say hi to Ken and Oro. They joined us after we had already done shout-outs.
Okay.
Well, there you go. Thank you all for being here. And don't forget to hit that like and share, subscribe, hit that notification, because the more you guys show your love, the more love we have for you.
You guys complete me. Thank you so much. All right, so let's get on with our journey here, and I'm going to get our caller back on the line. Are you there, sir?
Still here.
All right, good.
Good.
So, Don, you were in the middle of a kind of a chain there. So
yeah. You know, so I was just kind of touching on that kind of stuff. Now, so I talked about Phil Schneider. I talked a little bit about Betty and Barney Hill. Talked about the Griata Treaty, and if you want to look that up, that's pretty easy to get a hold of. It was like I said, it was a Griata Treaty. It was 1953 or 54. I think it was in February. But also you mentioned, that after History's Channel started doing things more like Ancient Aliens and things like that. That is true. However, don't forget that we also had a gentleman, his name was Art Bell, and he was Coast to Coast AM before George Norrie ever got anywhere near it. It was owned wholly by Mr. Art Bell. Now, Art Bell also, that was back in the early mid-90s, he really started hitting the airwaves with his experiences, or what he was hearing, and he really brought to light a lot of things. He really opened up the public conversation of aliens and ghosts and witches and warlocks and all this kind of stuff, because he talked to all kinds of people. Talked to Bob Lazar. He talked to I can't remember the gentleman's name. He was in the Philadelphia Philadelphia Experiment, and he was transported via the Philadelphia experiment into the Montauk Project. So I'll have to look those names up again. Him and his brother, as a matter of fact. So Art Bell really started shining that light on the public idea and the public knowledge, bringing it to light, and that really he had Eric Von Daniken on there. He had Stan Friedman. He had all of these people who had been researching. Obviously, Chariots of the Gods came out late 70s, I think it was. Mm-hmm. So it's been that conversation really got launched into the atmosphere after that. Yeah. Pardon the pun. So so check some of that stuff out. As I said, around 2000, almost 19 years ago, George Norrie really started stepping in also. So he was doing that, like the day, Art's Days Off and things like that. And then it just passed on to George Norrie. There's a whole lot of history there too. But, and then George Norrie's been, really relevant in keeping it on the public's lips,
and
in
George
the public's
Knapp.
mind. Yeah, it's George Knapp. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
And Dave Schrader,
Yep.
and there's so many personalities that are really helping to perpetuate that discussion.
Right.
And we're of course following in all of their paths, but definitely Art, I think, was the trailblazer that cut the path that we're all on.
Absolutely, yeah. And so yeah, I mean, but that's some history to it. But you're spot on. You're batting 1,000 with it, And these things are really the things that have been really on a lot of people's mind is, are they extraterrestrial? Are they in fact extraterrestrial? Are they interdimensional? Are they just in a different timeline and they can cross that timeline and pierce the veil and step through? Alternate realities. Are we crossing over to alternate realities of the Earth? So all of these things have come up, and the only way we can figure out what's going on is by everybody who's had an experience, or everybody who's been examining these things that are going on and really reporting on them and doing these things. The only way we can get together and really figure things out is if we can stop stabbing each other in the back about it.
Yeah.
That's something we talk about. There's the duality to everything, and of course you've got the detractors and the naysayers of everything. But I think you're spot on, and I think you're right. They at some point they just decided, some people will be able to remember, some people won't. Some people remember the tragic things, some people won't. Some people remember the good things, yeah. And as and there are a lot of things, I suppose, that nobody really wants to know. And you're absolutely right also about the family thing, because even if you didn't grow up in, say, a conservative Christian upbringing, as you said you did, even if families had an experience, will they really share it with each other, even though those are the people you're supposed to be able to confide everything to? And no matter what it is, they're supposed to love you and help you through whatever that may think, or whatever that may be, and just support you. And unfortunately, that's not where we are anymore. And even back in the 70s and 80s, it was getting really touchy. Can I share this with, or do I have to go out and find other people like me? And it's so hard to find people, especially then. Now it's easy. Now you just jump on the website, a website, and say, hey, this is my experience, and that's the way of it. So I mean, I commiserate with you. I can very well imagine how hard it was keeping this to yourself for the most part. And Brent and I are here to continue these conversations that were started, in my opinion, mostly on Art Bell's show, Coast to Coast AM. But please share more. Tell me your feelings about what I just said. Let me know what you think.
Well, I'll touch on Art Bell. Art Bell did great work. I liked his show. I caught it later on, a long time after this experience. Mm-hmm. You mentioned Zeta Reticuli. I don't really think that Greys are aliens, at least not the way aliens is thought of. I noticed usually 5 theories technically about what Greys are, mm-hmm. when I see discussion online. So the first one is sleep paralysis. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's sleep paralysis all the time. There's definitely cases of sleep paralysis where people hallucinate things and stuff like that, and they can't move. Right. But my question is, if I experienced sleep paralysis, why was I able to wake up, sit up, rub my eyes, turn my head, and then I was paralyzed when those Greys started coming over to me? Right. I find it very strange that I only, the sleep paralysis only kicked in then. Right. I don't think it was sleep paralysis. And plus, besides that, it was the most real experience of my entire life.
Oh, yeah.
If I could hallucinate something that vividly, then I could be hallucinating anything my entire life,
Right.
as far as I'm concerned. You know, our brain is just not reliable if we hallucinate that vividly. That's what I think.
Right.
So going to the other theories, aliens is one we covered. That's possible. I tend to think not. I didn't get the impression that graves are something that is just like on another planet coming here in a spacecraft and then walking around. One thing I would say that would really make me get that impression is that they don't use any kind of like breathing apparatuses or anything to help them get around. It's like they're accustomed to our environment for the most part without any help. So if they were coming from another world, I would think that they would need something like air or whatever. So I'm thinking demons is another one. I'll move to that next. I don't think they're demons because demons usually don't have physical bodies in the traditional sense. When we think of demons, we think of something spiritual. A lot of people do think that they're demons. I don't think that they are. I also don't think that they're demons because if they were, then me trying to get Christ to help me out in that situation, I would think that would have worked.
Right.
So I don't think that they're demons. Time travelers is another theory. A lot of people think that they're people in the future and they're traveling back in time for some reason, maybe gathering DNA because we've screwed ourselves up in the future and they need DNA. So I guess that's possible. I think that's sensible, but they are very different than us. So I kind of have a hard time thinking that we've become grays way in the future. Maybe, but I don't really see it too much. And that leaves interdimensional beings as the only other common thing talked about. And that's what I think they are. It's a vague description, but it's the best one that I have come across. I think they come from another dimension in some sense of that. And I think that it's a very dark place they come from because they have really big eyes. And the only reason I can think of that they would have such massive eyes is that they're coming from a very dark place where there's not much light. And I think that might be why they have a lens over their eyes and their eyes appear solid black.
Right.
I think they may be protecting their eyes from the light here because they only come at night too. That's another thing. You know, it's like they can't handle the light in the daytime.
That's very important. Very true. You know, you're hitting on a lot of things that I think are absolutely important, and you may be very well be right. I have to ask though, is this, as far as you know, this has been just a one-off experience, that this just happened, and you haven't noticed any other odd experiences that could be them as well, or have you?
I've had one or two dreams where there was a gray in the dream, but they were just dreams as far as I can tell. And I would say something like 24 times, we'll say. Something like 10 to 50 times over my life. I've got an intense feeling that they were near, like just grays were somewhere near me within, say, a couple miles to maybe even like within only a room or so away from me, like that close. But I never saw anything. So that's about it. And that could honestly just be, you know, like trauma, you know, just being paranoid because the experience was so traumatizing. I don't think it was. I think that I really was feeling something at least some of those times, but I don't know for sure. So as far as I know for sure, it was just this one time.
Okay. Well, I would agree with you, and I would really pay attention to that because, you know, we develop survival mechanisms. Everybody develops, when you're going through something extraordinarily traumatic, we develop survival mechanisms to cope with it. And one of them is a hypersensitivity to whatever it is that traumatizes you. And I would pay really close attention to those feelings, because I think it's more than just a flight of fancy. I think that is your inner radar, your inner eye going, oh, they're close. I can feel that energy again. There's some part of you that is, psychic. Every one of us has it. It's kind of like that same feeling that some people get when you get that feeling somebody's watching me. And, you don't know where, you don't always know why, but sometimes you'll find someone is watching you, and it's like, yeah, I could feel that. Well, that's an indication that, we all have this some level of psychic ability, and I would really pay attention to that, because that could be just your survival mechanism kicking in, and it was such a traumatizing event that you're going to be hypersensitive to that. And the other thing I was wondering is it possible? We often hear many times in the contact kind of situations of people getting implants. Have you noticed? I don't know. Have you noticed any weird bumps on your body? I don't know how else to say that without sounding really goofy.
Hey, that's fine. No, I have not noticed anything like that. Okay. I always wondered about that, but I never noticed anything. I felt trauma, like, things were done to me, but I have no memory of it. So I don't know what exactly. I don't know if there were any implants involved or anything like that. I had a distinct traumatic impression indirectly, and no memory of it, that they did some kind of sexual experimentation on me, perhaps emotional as well. But I don't know for sure. I can't say, because I don't have memory of that.
Right.
It's just kind of like if somebody drugged somebody where they couldn't remember something for a while, and then you do something terrible to them, they would figure out that something terrible happened, but they may not be able to figure out exactly what or know for sure.
Right.
That's kind of how it seems to me.
Well, I think that's again
very possible. Yeah.
Right. There's so many accounts of that very thing having happened. So, and again, I think you really got to trust when those feelings pop up that there might be something to it.
There's something valid. Yeah.
Yeah. There's something in your subconscious that's poking through, because I believe that even though we don't consciously remember these events, that knowledge is in our head somewhere. And when it pokes through like that, that's an indication that maybe you're onto something. And I'm not going to say that you for sure are, because of course there's no way I could know, but clearly those feelings are surfacing for some kind of reason.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that about covers everything that I thought of that would be worth saying on my end. So I've covered everything that I have to cover.
Sure.
Now, if you're interested, I mean, we do have some contacts. If you'd like to continue this journey into the your experience, including talking to other people that have had experience. If you're interested, please let me know. Message me at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com or on Facebook if you'd like. And I'm certainly happy to help any way I can, or put you in contact with people who may be able to help you.
Yeah, that would be interesting. And if you guys or anybody in the chat has any more questions or anything like that, then I'm fine to answer anything. I've just covered everything that I thought would be worth noting.
Right. Now, I have to ask you, as you're out and about, as you're, do you ever see anomalies in the skies? Just you're seeing things up there that that kind of defy explanation. Not necessarily a contact kind of experience, but have you seen what you believe are UFOs?
Yeah, actually, I see a lot of things. Nothing extraordinarily weird, but I see a lot of lights in the sky, particularly green flashing kind. It kind of looks like meteors. In fact, I think the excuse and the explanation of them is that they're meteors. But I can tell you, I've enjoyed looking at the sky since I was a child, and I never saw these things that I see more and more often now as I get older and older. It's just like really super bright green flashing stars. It flashes and fades away and goes entirely away in a second to a few seconds. So I've seen quite a few of those. I saw one extremely bright one with my brother's ex-girlfriend maybe 3 years ago, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, I'm trying to think of much else. That's the main thing. I see a lot of little things flying across the sky at night that resemble stars. Supposedly they're satellites, but I've noticed there's unusual activity with that too, because you go out some nights and you see the sky and there's no activity. Then you go out another night and every single 20 to 40 minutes, you'll see at least one of those go across the sky.
Yeah.
And lots of times it will get so busy that you'll be seeing one every few minutes.
Yep.
So if they're satellites, I find it kind of strange that you have busy and slow nights like that. But that's how I see it.
Right.
I agree with you.
Absolutely.
I think they're up there, and I think there's a lot of activity going on around us. I've made it my hobby. I have some infrared binoculars that I go out in the summer. And I wouldn't go out now and do it, but in the summertime when it's nice and warm, I'll go out there and sit on a lawn chair and lean back and just watch the night sky. And yeah, I'll see those things. And in fact, on the I don't know if you noticed it on their YouTube channel on the first break, it's kind of got some UFO phenomena on there. The green night vision footage is my own. That light anomaly was one that I caught and recorded right above my house,
yeah.
right here. So if you've seen that, that's my footage, and that's one of the things I captured. But I see that one was much closer than most of them. Most of them are just these little nebulous little lights up in the high atmosphere going by, and they seem to be on a specific trajectory. And I've seen them nearly crisscross, like just barely miss each other. And I know that's not satellites. I know that it's something else, but I don't know what. And to be honest with you, if you're ever curious looking at your night sky, there's satellite trackers you can get online that'll tell you what's above your area. And if you're seeing an anomaly, you can certainly compare it to the satellite map. And if it's not on the map, it's either some secret government satellite or it's something else.
Something unexplained.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'm kind of skeptical of some things that are said about satellites up in the sky, though, because one time, this will sound completely crazy, and I think it's crazy, because I don't know how you could explain it. In fact, I would think that it was an optical illusion, but it was twilight that evening, just getting dark enough where you could see the International Space Station go across the sky, and I was doing what you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I looked up when it was coming over, and I could swear I saw it go under a plane.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
Not over, under a plane.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
So that was really strange. So ever since then, I don't know. I've wondered, like, it's like all the satellite information they give really that reliable or something. Right. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, that's a good thought that you have, though, because I could verify, like, is that something unusual up there or is it a satellite?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. But, I definitely want you to stay in touch. I think that it's important that you, in my own opinion, but please do what you want. But I just think it's important for you to have, some resources and to be able to utilize them however you will. But I will definitely try to put you in touch with some people, both personal people that have been on the show that maybe would be willing to discuss this with you. But I'm also going to look into some if you're interested in the regression therapy, I'm going to look into some resources, but I'll have to talk to you off air and figure out what's in your region and if I can get you in touch with somebody.
It's funny. I actually went to college with a guy who was my psychology professor, and he actually was a hypnotist, and he would do memory regression with most of his classes. We ran out of time in mine, so I don't think he was able to in my class, but he did with my brother, and it worked because my brother asked me, hey, was there this water fountain in this church we went to when we were little kids or whatever. You know, he was kind of describing some stuff about a room that was there, and he didn't remember it. He had forgot about it because he was a little younger than me, and it was there. He was correct. So he had recovered memory correctly with that guy. But I had thought about for years going to him and seeing if he wanted to do that with me, but I just never got around to it.
Well, I think, you know,
which I guess I should.
I think you should, because, you know, if you want to go down that rabbit hole and see what happened, that would be a great indicator. And maybe you'll recover other memories, too, that may be important, that maybe you didn't wake up for. Maybe there's other ones you didn't wake up for. So, but thank you so much for calling in, brother. It's been a real pleasure. And I thank you for sticking with us for so long and explaining your story and answering questions. That has just been awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
Anytime, but we'll be in touch, and I'll let you know what I find, okay?
Okay, I appreciate that.
All right, you have a wonderful night, man.
Have a good one. Thank you for your call.
Yeah, you too.
Okay, see ya.
Wow, that's quite the call, and that's something that wow.
That is cool, but we're just on to our last break, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back for the last half hour of our show. That ended up being almost a full show, but it was excellent.
Nice, yes.
Really good conversation, and really cool correlation of events to other fantastic events that have happened. So we'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go away, and we'll see what we can get into on the other side. And I see we get another call, so we'll be right back. right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Paranormal Portal. It's the last half hour of our show, and we did have a caller from Canada, but it dropped, so I guess we won't have that call.
Unless they call back.
Unless you call back, you can certainly call back. Again, the phone number to call in is 213-233-3998. 213-233-3998. And it's possible maybe it was just somebody trying to get to the listener line.
Yeah, sure.
That happens from time to time as well. But we've had an epic journey so far tonight, Don. What do you think?
It's been awesome. I'm sad it's gone by so darn quickly. Something else I wanted to mention about that caller. He mentioned that the Greys that visited him. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to air quote on Greys because he said they were more of a bluish. Right. But he also mentioned like an aura that stood out from their body. I've read a couple of accounts of something to that effect, and one of our chatters in YouTube also mentioned something about that. That there are blues as well. Now, yeah. Anyhow, so. But also, I've read and I've heard reported that there's actually two different sizes of Greys. That there's actually a short Grey and a very tall Grey. Right. And how I understand it, is that the short Greys are more drone. They're the
worker bees.
Yeah, the worker bees. Yeah, four the larger, the taller Greys. So he mentioned that they were surrounding his bed. Now, another thing I've also had reported, or I've read reported, is that when you wake up and you're in the ship. Yeah. Because usually these taller Greys don't leave the ship, or they don't leave their territory, whatever that may be. That's when you see them, is when you wake up. And of course they do have the ability to make it seem like you're still in your room. So
right, maybe he was on the ship.
Maybe he was on the ship, but it was an overlay, a reality overlay. It looks like we got that call back, yeah?
No, this is a different one.
Different call.
But we'll take it all the same.
I bet you that's Bob.
This is area code 509. You're on the air.
Hey, what's up, fellas? It's Nick from Spokane.
Hey, Nick, how you doing? Good to hear from you. What's going on?
I'm doing good. I heard the caller drop, so I thought, hey, you know what? Okay, I'll just call in real quick.
Please do. You can call in anytime. You don't have to have an open phone line for you to call in. We got several slots we can get to.
Absolutely.
Of the call board.
Like I mentioned, I don't want to waste any airtime. I'm still here. I'm thinking about you guys.
Excellent.
I listen to your shows, after they've already been done.
Right.
I don't have any cool, crazy dreams to report to you, like we mentioned earlier. I haven't been abducted aboard any alien ships that I can remember.
Uh-huh. Or have you?
Or have you and you just don't remember? Exactly.
Maybe that's the point, right? I'm not supposed to remember.
So for you, it worked. It's like mission accomplished. But
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Mission accomplished.
So now, have you ever seen anything you'd qualify as a UFO?
Yes, actually, and I'm glad you asked. That's a trip. Yeah, I haven't thought about this for a long time. I was doing landscaping up on the north side of Spokane, and what I was doing, I was just realigning drip lines that went to trees that were being prepared for sale. Mm-hmm. And I stood up, I kind of stretched my back. I'm tired of bending over. And as I was looking around, I looked off in the distance, and there was a little black speck in the sky. Mm-hmm. And this is one of those cases where, if there wasn't somebody next to you, who's going to believe you? Right. Yep. And I thought to myself, that's really weird. I mean, maybe that could just be somebody flying a kite way off in the distance. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't moving. It just wasn't moving. Oh. I looked at it for at least a minute and a half or 2 minutes, and it never moved.
Wow.
And I thought to myself, I've got to go tell somebody. I have to. And I hope it's here when I come back, because I'm going to look really stupid if I come back and it's just not there.
Right.
So I ran into our shop, and the only person in there was my other friend, Nick. And I said, hey, you got to come check this out. You've got to come check this out. I am tripping out. So we ran out there to the same exact spot where I was standing. And I pointed out there in the distance, and I said, hey, it's exactly where it was at. If you just look right there through those trees in this spot just a little bit above the horizon, I mean, that's where it was at. I swear that's where it was at. And he was just like I was saying. He looked at me and he was like, what are you trying to pull? This is stupid. What'd you bring me out here for, man? And I said, no, I knew it. I knew it.
That's
as soon as I brought somebody out here, it's not going to be there. I mean, and there's no telling what it could have been. It could have been anything. It really could have been anything. But I can't think of anything that would sit there in the exact same spot for a few minutes,
right,
and not move, not move left or right, not move up or down.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, was it far enough away that you probably couldn't have heard it if it was an airplane or something, or a helicopter or something, or was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it was a long distance away.
Okay.
Close enough that you could see it. Close enough that you could tell that it was something.
Right.
But it wasn't. It wasn't moving up or down. It wasn't moving left or right. It wasn't changing in size. It was just a noticeable speck. If you could have just picked a piece of something small off of a countertop and held it up in the sky between your fingers, that's how far off in the distance. That's how small it was.
Right.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
But who knows? Maybe that was the UFO that abducted me all these years, and I can't remember any of the times they ever abducted me. I don't know.
Yeah, they're probably waving, but they're just too far away. Like, hey, there's Nick.
Yeah. Hey, let's go pick him up again. Let's erase his memory. It'll be fun.
It's always interesting, because I've looked into this stuff, and I've sat here with Brent. We're going to be nearing 2 years together here on the show this April, and I always say that I've never had an experience that I know of that I could quantify, whether it be UFO or ghost or apparition or whatever that is, and yet here I sit because you know what? I need to know. I need to know. So the idea of, being able to quantify something like that and being able to just say, yeah, it's real, even including Bigfoot, those are the things I can believe before I can believe ghosts and goblins, or not goblins, but ghosts and apparitions and poltergeists and things like that, because these are tangible things,
stuff.
Exactly. And, I just wish that I could look up and see something that's not a satellite, or something that I can't.
Right.
I would love to just and
that's
Brent tells his story. He was out there with his IR goggles, and he was out his night vision goggles, and he just saw it, and there it was. And it's like I'm like, give me those goggles, dang it, give me those things.
Yeah.
But
for sure. Like there's, I want to just at some point in my life have some absolute evidence where, I caught it on my phone and it's undeniable, or somebody's standing there with me and we can look back and forth at each other and say,
yeah, exactly.
Well, that just happened,
right?
Well, now the other part of it is this. You always there's always the blurry photos, and everybody's seeing a million of those that are allegedly of paranormal things. But I was watching a show today, and the guy was like, you're kind of damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, because if it's blurry, they scoff at you and say, well, that could be anything. But if it's crystal clear, they say, oh, that's too clear. It's got to be Photoshop.
It must be a fake.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, what is it going to take? It's just going to take so much to turn other people away from their paradigm. I mean, those that don't want to believe just can't believe. It doesn't matter what you show them. They're just not going to buy it. And especially, I mean, it's tough to try to present a YouTube video and go, look, see what happened? Because, there's so much garbage out there, and there's so many fakes, and there's so many hoaxers and such that you certainly can't rely on that for your basis of having a belief in something.
Right.
But if you already have the belief, it's kind of neat to look at those things and see what else is going on or what other people are seeing. I know I was watching, I think it was secure team or third phase of moon, and I'm not sure. I know that there are certainly detractors for both of them that say that they're
Right.
hoaxers and fakers or whatever. But somebody had caught these huge. Actually, it was two different camera views allegedly around Washington D.C. of these weird pyramid shapes up in the cloud. It was like an overcast evening night, and these pyramids are up in the clouds, rotating like above the capital of the nation. And I don't know.
I wish I would have been there.
I know, right? But you can find it if you go to, I'm pretty sure it was third phase of moon that put it out there. But they had two different submissions of people that were driving around and caught it on their camera. Now, if they are fakes, they were really good fakes.
Yeah.
I mean, they were really well done. Did you see those, Don?
I have not, but I've heard of them, and I've seen stills, but I haven't seen any video.
Right, and it's just really, really amazing. If those things are real, I mean, but then again, obviously nothing else has come out of it because I haven't heard any other people going, "Oh yeah, did you see what they found over there?" But I don't know. It's kind of the
one thing.
Go ahead.
One thing if people are listening, and if they have that opportunity to catch a UFO on video, one thing that irritates me the most watching UFO videos is those real shaky videos.
Oh, yeah.
Real shaky ones, and you're like, come on, can you just hold the camera still?
Right.
But this is what I'm gonna do if I ever see a UFO and I'm thinking to myself, okay, it's time to record. The only thing I have to record with is my cell phone.
Sure.
But what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it on a solid surface and aim it towards that object.
Yes.
So that the solid surface doesn't allow that shakiness.
Right.
So if anybody out there is going to record some UFO activity, please set your phone down on a solid surface so that it's not shaky.
Well,
so
even if you're holding it in your hand and you just rest your hand on something like a car hood or something, just to stabilize your hand.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the other side of that though is that I think people zoom in. They're trying to zoom in, and of course, a subtle shake is not a problem on a wide range of field, but once you zoom in, a little twitch becomes an earthquake. Yeah. It's like, oh my God. So it magnifies it so much. But you're right. Put your hands
and
down.
Probably people don't think about that. The first thing off the top of their head is just, oh, get my phone out. Oh, I gotta start recording. I gotta record this.
Yeah.
And you just start recording. You don't think to yourself, oh, I need to stabilize my hand somehow.
Right.
No, you want to focus right there on that incredible thing you're seeing. You know.
Well, 9 times out of 10.
So I don't blame people. I don't blame people for it.
9 times out of 10, they're so excited that it's usually not even in frame. It's like wiggling in and out of the frame because they're so excited. They don't want to look at just their phone.
Yeah, or think about all the people who see stuff, but they don't even think to get their phone out and record it. They're just staring at it, you know? Oh, am I really seeing what I'm seeing? And then it's gone, and they're thinking afterwards, oh, I should have. Why didn't I have my phone out?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why didn't I have my camera out? So.
Excellent points,
Anyways,
brother.
I don't want to take up any more of you guys' time. I probably already took up 2/3 of the rest of your show, and I didn't mean to do it. I just wanted to call and say hellos, and you guys' show is awesome, and I listen to it whenever I can. But I've been super busy lately with work and my whole Instagram thing, and I can't always tune in. I'm sorry.
I'm here to tell you that I would much rather you guys called in than me reading stuff.
Yes.
So anytime the phone lines are open, please, anybody out there, burn them up. Line up in the queue. I'll get to every one of you I can. But
unfortunately, only on Fridays and Saturday nights.
Yes, Friday and Saturday nights. But thanks so much for calling in, Nick. It's great to hear from you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. You guys take care. Be safe.
All right. Stay warm.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God.
Thank you. Yeah, you guys too.
Thanks.
Later.
So, that's the thing, though, is, he talked about, thinking about getting your phone out. It's the last thing you actually think about.
Yeah.
And it's just because if you can believe, what you're seeing, you're not going to be thinking about, oh my God, where's my phone? You're not, let me run inside. Don't move. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
No, it's never going to happen because of that. that fight or flight, and
Yep.
sometimes when you see some jaw-dropping thing, all you could do is just pick your chin up off the ground every now and then, much less, think about doing anything else.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. But the other thing is, what I was trying to get to on the phone, I don't know if I did, but the problem is the people that have the cell phones out, they don't want to look at the viewfinder. They want to look with their eyes because they want to absorb it mentally.
Right.
And they just kind of point in the general area, and you get these little anomalies moving in and out of the frame really quick. But yeah, I think it's really cool. But I don't know. It's amazing stuff. Yeah.
Sounded almost like he was talking about gun control. Stabilize your hand.
Gun control in terms of controlling your shot.
Oh, gotcha.
Not gun control in terms
of course.
Disarming the nation.
And that's another thing though is you don't actually have to rest your hand on anything. You can kneel down and rest your elbow on your knee.
That's true.
And that's all it takes. So
there you have it. Little shooting advice from Mr. Longbeard. That's excellent.
Yep.
And Jess likes your beard decorations.
Oh yes. Aren't those cool?
They are cool.
I've been telling you guys I had them. I just haven't worn them. So
Yeah.
Here I am.
It's about time.
Yeah, and this is only like I've got 24 total beads, but I've got a full set of Elder Further Arcs. So there's a lot of them. But there's some of them I don't want to wear. But anyhow, thank you.
Oh, that's cool.
It's nice to hear that I'm still gorgeous.
I said I like your beard decorations, but I'm not commenting.
Close enough to me.
Well, I love you.
Oh yeah, good point, Jess. Jess says stabilize Don's hand. Ha. Yeah, you can't stabilize somebody with alien hand syndrome. Strange Lovian. Good point. Yeah.
And hey, Jess, it's good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Gracious.
Thanks for coming in. How many people are in the YouTube
we've
right
got
now?
36 people watching. We were up to 40 about 10 minutes ago. And
wow.
So it's been a good show so far.
Where'd you forego? No, it's fine. I know people come and go. It's just the way of the world of entertainment. But I'm glad that you guys are sticking with us, and I hope you guys are enjoying the shows that we're putting on. Now next Friday, Dee is going to be here. Dee Swiger, who is in our YouTube chat room.
Yay, Dee!
Dee is going to be here, and she's going to talk about the dynamics of portals and things about that nature, which will be really cool because the show is called Paranormal Portal, and by God, we should understand what the hell a portal is.
Ah.
If we don't, then there's a problem. So we're bringing Dee on, and she's going to set us straight on the portal.
Oh, nice.
Oh, thank you, Nellie. Nellie says, yes, good show. Woo! And honest to God, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to call in. Don't worry about, I don't know if it's worth calling. I don't want to waste their time. It's like any call. This is a
call-in show.
It was designed to be a call-in show in my head. This show was designed in my mind when I was planning the Paranormal Portal. It would be a listener-driven show that you guys would take part and participate in discussions and ideas and it's through some of the history. It's been really tough to get anybody to call in. Right. But when you guys do, I'm having a party inside. Honest to God, I am.
He's doing the jig like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, you can't see what's going on down here. Down here, I'm doing the whole hips and everything, but I'm just really good at balancing. I don't. That probably sounded horrible, didn't it?
I'm not going to touch it.
No, you're not. That's not on the table.
No, it's under the table.
Oh my God. That was my toilet flush.
Oh, no.
It's just gone all the way to hell, ladies and gentlemen. Didn't take us long either.
It took us most of the show. We only got, 6 minutes left. So.
I know, but we could screw it up. We can screw up the last 6-7 minutes like nobody's business.
Oh, my goodness.
It's what we do here on the portal. We don't.
Wow.
This show is completely unscripted, ladies and gentlemen. You are getting whatever's going on in our heads as it happens. It's like live reporting of the inside of my cranium.
Oh, God. If I chrome the inside of my head, will it reflect my thoughts?
I don't even know how to respond to that, Don. You chromed your beard. That's a good start.
That's a good point. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, it was a good start. I think it's fun. It's a family show.
You know, I really like talking about. I really like the discussion tonight. The caller, the main caller was just very, very informative and very honest with his experience. You know, it brings up a lot of questions. You know, and it brings back all this stuff that I've packed away in the back of the head somewhere.
Right.
You know, and it's always refreshing to be able to get out and actually talk. You know, and I still don't think that it actually gets talked about enough, though. Still,
right.
You know,
Well,
people still have to be reporting this, and people have to really, the people who can, have to really be available to, you know, figure out help figure out what's going on, or
right.
offer you know, support.
But we got WikiLeaks to thank for some disclosure, because there's an article here about them uncovering some of the emails showing the Vatican's involvement in the whole extraterrestrial discussion. And it says, Edgar Mitchell was very active in moving the disclosure process by discussing the matter with various contacts inside the White House, the Pentagon, along with the disclosure projects, Dr. Stephen Greer. Here's one of the emails that was recently released by WikiLeaks, and it mentions the Vatican. Dear John, as 2015 unfolds, I understand you are leaving the administration in February, and it's urgent that we agree on a date and time to meet to discuss the disclosure and zero-point energy at your earliest available after your departure. My Catholic colleague, Terry Mansfield, will be there too to bring us up to date on the Vatican's awareness of ETI. Another colleague was working on a new space treaty, citing involvement with Russia and China. However, with Russia's extreme interference in Ukraine, I believe we must pursue another route for peace in space and ZPE on Earth. I met with President Obama's Honolulu childhood friend, U.S. Ambassador Pamela Hamamoto, on July 4th at the U.S. mission in Geneva, when I was able to tell her briefly about zero-point energy, and I believe we can enlist her as a candidate and resource in our presentation for President Obama. I appreciate Aaron's assistance in working with Terry to set up our meeting. Very cool. Now this is from Edgar Mitchell, rather. Let's see. And there's another excerpt from Monsignor Corrado Balducci, a longtime friend of Pope John Paul II and Vatican's leading exorcist, is one of multiple people from within the Vatican who has been very outspoken about extraterrestrials. On multiple occasions, he has stated that contact between humans and extraterrestrials has already happened. In quotes, the existence of these beings is real. We can't have doubts. As for Pope Francis, this is what he had to say. He created beings and allowed them to develop according to the internal laws that he gave to each one, so that they were able to develop and arrive at their fullness of being. He gave autonomy to the beings in the universe at the same time at which he assured them of his continuous presence, giving being to every reality, and so creation continued for centuries and centuries, millennia and millennia, until it became which we know today, precisely because God is not a demiurge or a magician, but the creator who gives being to all things.
Right.
So, very cool. Apparently the Vatican's on board with all this, ladies and gentlemen.
Right. You know, and that's something I remembered as you were reading that.
Uh-huh.
And my argument for people who say aliens are demons, there's no such thing as good aliens, and they're not even really aliens, they're just demons in disguise. Well, here's the thing, though. You know, if you want to believe that you're you know, that specific, that there's no other intelligent life in the world, you know, who's to say that? And this is just an observation, opinion, mostly an observation. Who's to say that God didn't send the aliens with the spore to seed the earth under? And besides, let's go to angels real quick.
We got about a minute.
Well, that's okay. I'm almost done. What's to say that angels, as we know them, aren't actually aliens doing God's work. So, you know, if you say God did not create anybody but us, then I think you're being limited in your scope of belief. Well, there you go. And if somebody wants me to explain it later, they can IM me. They know how to get a hold of me.
All right. You can get hold of him, and the beard will explain the magic of his mind. But we love you guys.
Is there magic in that mind?
I don't know. There's got to be something going on in there. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Let's make it close.
We love you guys. Don, anything in closing?
I love you guys. Thank you. Like, subscribe, share.
Please.
Hit that notification button. Thank you for being with us, as always. And for those of you who were not able to join us live, thanks for watching. And a shout out just in case to Miss Pixie. We miss you.
All right. We love you all, and we love you too, Miss Pixie, wherever you are. Hope you're okay. But ladies and gentlemen, we love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. And coming up next on TFR is Beyond the Veil. I don't know. They're going to be live really, really, really soon. The update is the studio's all together. So you guys take care, and I'll be back tomorrow night with some bedtime stories for you. Love you. Good night. Love you. Mean it.